Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, you just got to keep on breathing. And from Los Angeles, the city of angels, they say. Sometimes I think it's a city of fallen angels. And from New York City, the Big Apple. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. Did you hear that 135,000 people moved out of California and only 21,000 moved in? They're losing people. And I bet New York is also, Adrian.
Yes, they are.
Well, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, otherwise known as Caregiver Dave at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, Adrian Gruberg, at thecaregiverspace.org. And I don't know how she does it, but she just keeps looking younger and younger and younger because we're all getting older and older and older. But anyway, we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 25, count them, 25 global audio and video platforms, including platforms like iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, HealthyLife.net, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud. Shall I continue? No. In fact, we're proud. We are proud. Are you proud, Adrian? She's proud, too.
I'm
to
proud.
Be number one caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM. And number 3, which we're going to try harder, on FeedSpot out of thousands. And excuse me for coughing on air. We have an especially exciting show planned for today, don't we, Adrian?
Yes, we do.
This is where she says, yes, we do, yes. But before we get started, I do want to thank my last week's guest. Do you remember who it was, Adrian?
Yes, but please don't do this to me.
Don't do this to you. Well, I usually have it written down, and I'm trying to think myself.
Linda McKenzie?
Oh, yeah, she was on the syndicated one. We did 2 that day, didn't we? Who was
Jody O'Donnell.
Jody O'Donnell. Wow, you're older than me, and your memory is better than mine. God bless
No,
you.
I've got a pad in front of me with my notes.
Got a pad. Maybe I should do that, huh? Duh. All right. Well, it was a great show, and that show and this one and all our shows are on caregiverdave.com and on YouTube and all those other platforms that I mentioned. But today, Dr. Michael Glenn. And I gave my title to this show is If I Knew I Was Going to Live This Long, I Would Have Taken Better Care of Myself.
Yes.
So hopefully that'll get a lot of people to tune in because Dr. Michael Glenn is a real interesting guy. I'll tell you a brief bio. He's a registered respiratory therapist, graduated March '85 from Northwestern Medical School's Advanced Standing Program. First hospital-based practice in Dallas-Fort Worth in '89. Team doctor for Clarksville Fox female professional football team. Well, there you go. Ooh. Opened a clinic in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He just moves all over the place. In 2003, treated elite military units, treated elite amateur athletes, some were national champions. Tech Fort Worth's Impact Your World Award. That's probably a prestigious award. And Dr. Michael, enough of that. Welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, we tried having you on another time, but we had technical difficulties, and we tried, and after 30 minutes, we just, let's do it next time. And this is next time. So we can hear you, you can hear us, we can see you, you can see us. We're in good shape. I always like to ask my guests just who is Dr. Michael Glenn? Who is this guy, and why was he placed on this earth?
Well, I have always had a desire to help people in my family growing up, and to be honest with you, Sunday school teacher said, go home and figure out what you're going to take in high school and say your prayers and do all the good stuff. And wow. I had a dream and did not have anybody to follow in their footsteps, but felt like I was supposed to go into the medical profession. and become a doctor. And after a
You certainly did that, didn't you?
I did. After a car wreck my freshman year in college,
Ooh.
I went from wanting to be a pediatrician to somebody who could deal with all kinds of trauma.
Uh-huh.
So that's what took me down several roads that every door that opened was a blessing and a challenge, but it brought me all kinds of understanding that allowed me to develop the exospine that I created. So it is not one thing that I am passionate about. It is about helping people. That's it.
Right.
Wow, exospine sounds very interesting. I love the name. How do you spell that?
EXO and then spine like your back. So it's EXOSPINE.com for our website. And it's a result of treating the elite military units and seeing these young men and women have degeneration of their spines that was accelerated compared to what you and I experienced, Dave and Adrian. We've just had the regular wear and tear of lifting and pulling and living life, but the military actually showed me the acceleration with all the extra gear they carry.
Yeah, right.
And they have to sleep on floors like they're at the Capitol right now as we speak.
Exactly.
You know, probably had a rough night
With their guns.
with
Just
their
look at every
backpacks.
one
I
of
mean, you know.
all of that, exactly. And it was really a gift. It was eye-opening because it was a prayer that I could only see soldiers one person at a time.
Right.
And I honestly asked, how do I prevent the problem? And that's where I came up with the exospine. But it was an idea of, as you said, if I'd have known I'd ended up like this, I'd have taken better care of myself. How do we prevent the injuries? How do we prevent the strains? And very fortunately, all the doors have opened, except for our funding. We're still trying to get it manufactured, but it is still my passion to prevent the injuries. We spend over $200 billion a year for musculoskeletal problems, pain, from aspirin and Tylenol to surgery and rehab. And it's even more expensive than all the neurological, neurovascular injuries that occur, such as stroke, spinal injuries, things of that nature.
Sure. And you were treating a female football team. I mean, when girls, I've never seen girls play football, by the way, so I'm kind of sheltered here. But are they as rough as guys? I mean, I've seen the roller derby, and those girls are pretty tough.
But they have different rules. I don't know.
Do they?
No, they had full pads. It was an all-out, strike them as hard as they could. In fact, one championship game down in Jacksonville, Florida, a girl got stepped on her throat by another player and put us through a little bit of a scare.
Yeah.
But I will say that women are, I would say, more competitive than men. It's been my experience.
And these are big women? I mean, I'm sure
they were
maybe the
from
quarterback isn't very big, but...
Well, we had some cornerbacks and wide receivers that were little, but were as fast as you can imagine. Actually, some had been college sprinters, and they were amazingly fast. And some of them were still active duty military. Others were former military, but they were all very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a pro women's football team?
This was pro. This was as pro as they had at that time, which I believe was 2005.
I never see them on TV, you know.
And now?
No. They're well, I have not followed up with them recently, but it is definitely women are trying to find ways to just express themselves in a very physical manner. Especially for those who are very rugged into martial arts and things of that nature. And these girls, I would never have argued, ladies, women, I would have never argued with them over their capability because they always impressed me. And having treated athletes for years before that, I was doing the same thing for these women that I was for any other athlete or any other soldier. All the musculoskeletal injuries, the soft tissue injuries, the strains to the ligaments, the tendons, it was just a fascinating experience watching them go out there and compete.
I mean, I watch the women that play soccer and basketball, and I mean, they're fierce competitors.
Absolutely.
You know, volleyball may not be teams, but if you look at the Olympics, these
Volleyball
women
can get
are
pretty
going
rough.
for it.
Yeah.
They do not
really
hold
do.
back.
And so
Nope.
here's my opinion. I say if the military and football players trust you with their health, why shouldn't we? Where are you located? You're in
I'm
Texas,
in the Dallas,
right?
Texas area, yes.
Dallas, Texas. There are a lot of people in Dallas. And,
There is.
hopefully you're sharing this on your Facebook page. And
I am.
Oh, good for you. Love it when the guests follow instructions. So let me ask just a simple question. You know, why sometimes when I wake up, I feel tight and stiff and everything hurts and I got to like walk around to like walk it off? Is there something I'm doing wrong? Am I sleeping wrong? I mean, what's going on?
Well, having worked with open heart surgery as a respiratory therapist, I never thought it would become so connected to all the musculoskeletal injuries that I dealt with. But
I mean,
researchers...
the knee bone is connected to the thigh bone, and the thigh bone's connected to the hip bone.
Absolutely.
The heart.
But that's the supply, that's the fuel. It's the sugar and the oxygen and the nutrients that we need to fuel those muscles. And believe it or not, over time we get stiff because we've overworked those muscles, and they're so tight that they cannot let the passive circulation in. Dave, we've had a discussion before. You've mentioned having to take care of people in beds for prolonged periods.
Right.
You've heard the issue of bed sores and such.
Oh yeah.
It's gentle.
Turn them every 2 hours. Can't get a good night's rest that way. You got to put them in a facility if you're doing that.
But you see the point. It's a matter of passive circulation makes up 60% of our circulation. All of the active circulation, from the heart to the aorta to the arteries to the arterioles, which are the tiny arteries, that's where the pressure is. From there it moves into the capillaries, and from there on into the veins. And the capillaries forward, in return back to the heart, all have to have the valves in the vessels to keep the blood from backing up, because we only have 1/5 the amount of blood in our body to fill all of our circulation.
Oh.
So as a result, as an example, you go to the gym and you hear people talk about doing 3 sets. Having worked with injuries and trying to get people to peak performance, I try to get them to try a new technique, which is a prolonged slow technique that only does 1 set. Now, why is that? It's because only allowing 1 set burns up all the oxygen and sugars in the muscle at that time. It's the second and third set that allow fresh circulation to come in, add additional sugars, additional oxygen, that when they burn, build up lactic acid and make us sore from the workout.
Yeah.
But the
I
guy
know about
like
that.
you...
3 days,
Okay.
2-3 days afterwards, right?
Well, it can be, yes.
Yeah.
And so as a result, that 2 or 3 days afterwards is because all that acid that builds up creates what physiologically is called tetany. Tetany just means tightness of the muscles. And tightness prevents fresh oxygen, fresh nutrients, and circulation to get in. Now, if you stopped after the first time, there's not enough acid to stop the muscle from allowing the passive circulation. And that's something research in the last 15, 20 years showed, is that when the oxygen levels get low, the connective tissue starts forming a sticky glue called fibrinogen, and fibrinogen over 7 to 10 years actually hardens and makes us stiff and inflexible. And that's why Grandma and Grandpa here in the USA move around like they're stiff, they can hardly move freely.
Yeah.
Versus an old National Geographic's magazine had a gentleman in a blue silk outfit that was from China. And they showed inside pictures of them doing all these Tai Chi movements and all these flexibility issues. Well, we don't do enough stretching in the U.S. We work ourselves as hard as we can go, then we go home and collapse. And back to your original question, Dave, why do you wake up that way? It's because you didn't stretch to allow blood and oxygen back into the tissues overnight that would allow you to wake up more refreshed.
Wow.
So you should stretch after?
Well, what
or
I do
before or both?
Well, what I teach patients to do is very specific techniques for where they're getting too tight, which is usually the overworked muscle. And the techniques I push are for about 10 seconds every hour. All right? Takes you just a split second. But why? Because while you're sitting there in your chair, and I'm sitting in mine, we're allowing certain muscles to shorten, which means they're not going to let fresh blood in as easily. The muscles that are tight to hold us up as we're focused and working on our computers, or while we're working on an assembly line, all these muscles go long periods without oxygen and nutrient resupply. And so by stretching 10 seconds every hour, specifically, you allow fresh blood and oxygen in, nutrients as well, sugars to keep them fueled. And that is where the low oxygen event occurs and gradually forms more and more fibrinogen. And that leads to all the tightness that we develop with age.
Now I'm laughing because my dog stretches all the time.
Yeah.
And so he's probably tuned into something. He's always stretching. I said, well,
it's
what are you
like a
stretching
natural
about,
thing.
It is, because animals listen to their bodies. Like after surgeries, we had to convince people to get up and move. Have you seen an animal after they get surgery? They want to get up and walk the same day. That's perfect. Animals are examples I've used for patients for years. I said, you ever seen the dog get up from the bed? They stretch. You get up, you put your clothes on and go work. Don't even hesitate.
I should stretch when I get out of bed. Stretch when I go to bed. It is true.
Well, now, and nobody stretches every hour. So what I tell patients is, do you stretch when you wake up? Do you stretch at lunch? And do you stretch at dinner? Then do one in the middle of the morning between breakfast and lunch. Do one in the middle of the afternoon between lunch and dinner. And right before you go to bed. And you'd be surprised how much better you will feel when you wake up.
Well, I learned something
already.
already.
Can you illustrate this 10-second stretch?
Well, the stretch technique that I teach is called proprius. What's that?
The ball game is the 5th inning stretch or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The technique I teach is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, which abbreviated as PNF, or in the military they call it the buddy stretch. Now, most of us don't have a buddy who can stretch with us frequently throughout the day. So the technique boils down to, if you will take whatever muscle you're trying to stretch, simply go as far as you can comfortably go. In that position, stay and tighten the muscles that you're stretching without allowing yourself to move back into your neutral position, so that you end up with tricking the muscle into believing it has shortened. If you'll stay in the same position, and as you relax the muscle, it will let you go a little bit further. Tighten it again, hold it for about 3 to 10 seconds, and then relax, and you go a little further. And if you did this 3 cycles of that, you've now tricked the muscle into letting go so that circulation can come in easier.
And we're keeping it stretched, right? We're not stopping.
Absolutely. No,
wow.
in that you're an example. Let me just use my head since that's in the camera. If I'm trying to stretch this side of my neck, I want to sit here and keep myself from coming up. So as I try to bring it back up, I'm tightening these muscles. Now watch as I relax. My muscles let go. I'll tighten them again, and then they let go. And I've just tricked my own muscles into letting go, because throughout the day, I tighten up. And you can do that with any muscle group there is.
Okay, how come I can't lift what I used to lift? Now, my wife is paralyzed on one side, so every now and then I have to lift her or help her transfer. I have a little thing that I stole off of my gym machine, that you do this, and I hung it from the bed because only her left side works. So when she gets up out of bed, she has to pull herself up like this. And so last night we were fooling around, and I forget what it was, but I had her arm. She was wanting to tickle me or something, and I was trying to put her arm down. We were in the arm wrestle position, just coincidentally. And I couldn't get her arm down. I says, wait a minute, I'm stronger than you. And I tried it again, and I tried to fool her by relaxing, and then tried it again. I says, where did you get so? And it made me feel like I better start working out, man. My disabled wife, is got a bigger bicep than me. Hello.
Well, that's a good example.
His disabled wife uses that one arm
or two
and keeps it strong.
Exactly. That's a very good point. And in that process of keeping something active, we do keep it strong if we keep it fueled. What we know is we lose muscle mass after we hit 40. So we need to make sure, and you're seeing all these keto diets, and I'm not an advocate of keto diet, but we certainly... Keto. Oh, you what?
I'm doing keto.
Oh,
okay. It's a modified keto now. It's more like Atkins because I've lost the weight. Now I'm just trying to keep it off. So,
but
I don't
do you notice that you
carbs,
gained?
I just reduce them. I can go crazy with carbs. I mean, I can eat a whole pizza. So I just try to control my carbs and no sugar, stuff like that. So hopefully I'm doing it right. Give me some tips.
If it's functioning for you, then you're doing it right. Everybody's going to be a little different, so you're going to modify it accordingly. Your body tells you what you really need. If you listen to it and you have a hunger for something, you might be missing some of those nutrients. Consider it. Now, for the example you were talking about, you're probably feeling a little more muscular than you used to. Is that a fair statement? Okay. Sure. When we feed our body proteins, it allows it to rebuild the muscle. Women are giving themselves more calcium to help rebuild their bones and prevent osteoporosis. We know several factors in science have shown that what we feed ourselves rebuilds the components with the building blocks that we give it. For a while, everybody was pushing the glucosamine and chondroitins. Those are the building blocks for the joints.
Did I still do that?
Absolutely, because here's the example I tell patients. Grandma and Grandpa put soup bones in soup, and they'd gnaw on the end of a chicken bone, right?
Right.
All right. Maybe not your specific grandparents, but I've seen people do that all across the country. But yet,
marrow, right? That's what the stuff is in the little joint.
On the end, that's a glucosamine and
marrow. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a cartilage that you're getting off the end of the bone. Yeah. So it's the cushion in the joint. And if you actually give yourself that building block, you can rebuild your own. But unfortunately, we had a period of time when arthritis was shooting up that we were not including that in our diet. Everybody, don't put the bone in the soup, or, that's impolite to chew on the end of the chicken bone.
So kids should be taking that to prevent the arthritis, not too late.
Usually it's once you start the wear and tear that you start grinding on the joint. And then, of course, as we get older, another joint issue is, anybody ever driven an old car and it has more play in the steering wheel?
No power steering and play,
Yeah. So you have to do this just to keep it straight down the road, trying to find that little balance. Our joints become worn down with time and can develop arthritis or just have too much play in the joint.
Loose
joints.
So,
exactly. So we're faced with trying to give the body all the building blocks we need to rebuild it, to keep our muscles strong, keep our joints padded and cushioned. And the fact that as we get older, our testosterone even goes down. But did you know they have all kinds of supplements out there that have been found to stimulate and keep testosterone? Look at the commercials on TV. There are plenty of them out there. And it just keeps us healthier. In fact, there were some studies that showed men have more heart attacks as their testosterone levels get too low.
Yeah, well, that's why I have you on the show, because caregivers don't take care of themselves. They don't eat right, they don't sleep right, and they lift wrong and hurt themselves, and now they're out of commission. So I knew that this would be valuable for them. But before we go on, I want to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Our featured speaker is a best-selling author who has written numerous books and articles. He's a speaker, life coach, and host of Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program. He frequently appears on television and radio shows all across the country and has even shared the stage with Suzanne Summers at Harvard. But his most important role is caregiver to his beautiful wife Charlene for over 22 years. Please welcome Mr. Dave Nasani!
I want to share with you a love story. In a couple of weeks, my wife and I will be celebrating 44 years of being together. My wife, Charlene, and I had a fairy tale, storybook, romance, courtship, and marriage for the first 21 years of our lives together. One day, out of nowhere, my wife has a headache, the headache of her life. She suffered a massive stroke, and it left her severely speech-impaired and paralyzed on the right side. And in that moment, our world turned upside down. I got to tell you, the next 2 years was like a living hell. I just didn't know what to do. I felt guilty most of the time. I became a caregiver. I didn't even know what a caregiver was. I was experiencing the same problems that other caregivers experience. If you don't take care of you, I can't take care of her. Well, that's why I wrote the book. Now I can teach other caregivers. I'm living proof that you can thrive as a caregiver. My wife and I travel now all over the world sharing our story. One day, life is going to call upon you to be the captain of your boat. Heck, you might be saving your own life. Thank you. And we're back on the Caregiver Dave show, and I'm Dave Nasani. My guest host, my regular host, I should say, co-host is Adrian Gruberg, and we're talking to Dr. Michael Glenn. And the title of the show, if you just tuned in, is if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. And that is so true. I wanted to ask you, some people go see a doctor about aches and pains, and they just say, well, it's like it's not their forte. They'll send you to another doctor, or they'll give you some drugs. You know, if you're complaining about, my neck hurts or my back hurts, and some people go to see chiropractors, some people go to see acupuncturists. What do you do for people who have those pains, aches and pains that nobody else can seem to fix?
Well, one of the challenges is getting medicine, nutrients, building blocks, anything you're trying to get to the tissue for it to, one, decrease the inflammation, increase the recovery, rebuild something that's damaged, requires circulation. And one of the techniques I have used is active release techniques, and it is the first medical protocol the government ever gave a patent for. There are over 512 protocols, toes to nose, as I jokingly say, on all kinds of things that can alleviate some pain. In fact, at one point, Colorado was requiring you to see an active release practitioner before you were allowed to have carpal tunnel surgery, because much of the entrapments of nerves were elsewhere, like at the pronator teres. The median nerve could be entrapped. There is entrapment and adhesions throughout the body, and the soft tissue work breaks loose the tissues. So, as I've told patients for years, so that you're flexible like when you're a teenager. And when everything slides and glides, you don't have the grinding of the joints or the pulling on the nerves or the pinching. So it's not, as chiropractors do, manipulation, or some physical therapists do it, or what are your options before you end up needing surgery? Because surgery is still a controlled trauma. In fact, when I was in the Air Force, a pilot out of the blue said, "You know, a landing is nothing more than a controlled crash." And I went, "What?"
Yeah, that's
well, where did that come from? I was like, "What are you talking about?" And because I was as a reservist in the Texas Air Guard, I went back to my regular job, and I was treating a patient in one of the largest open heart surgery units in the country, in fact, in the world. We had ambassadors and other people. Occasionally Secret Service was there to protect them, and we had all these famous people. And as I'm working with this one patient, it suddenly hit me. There was no accident. I had heard that term. Surgery was nothing more than a controlled trauma to allow the body to heal itself into a better condition than it was before. So with that concept in mind, you step back and look at all the little processes that go on throughout the body. And what I've tried to get patients to realize, in order to prevent those needs, they need to actually listen to themselves rather than always being on the outside with the caregiving that you're offering someone else. And that's what leads to preventing the injuries and avoiding the aches and pains that you experience as you get older.
You know, I needed back surgery at one point in my life. It was a 4 millimeter, then it went up to 8 millimeter. I was getting injections. They helped for a little bit, then it stopped helping. And then all of a sudden I felt this heat in the back of my back, and I was in church when it happened, so I give credit to God. I was healed. But my chiropractor, he gives credit to him because he says, I told you, don't go get that surgery because it'll eventually get better. And so I went to get my CAT scan or MRI, whatever it was, and he looked at it a few days later, and he says, oh, that's interesting. I said, what? He says, your 8 millimeter bulge shrunk down to a 4 millimeter. He says, you don't need back surgery. Just work on your core and join a gym. And that was 4 years ago. And my back doesn't hurt anymore. It's like it's healed. Now, how do you work on your core? Because I was swimming. I was doing other exercises. He says, run in place in the pool because it's zero gravity. So what's your take on these people with back trouble that they can, sciatica, goes down the leg?
Oh, sure. No, you've hit right on one of the things that I used to tell patients about all the time, and that is that everybody thinks sit-ups actually strengthen your core. But if you looked at Men's Fitness, or I think it was Muscle and Fitness, it was a kinesiology section written by Dr. Michael Yasis, famous gentleman who provided all the details on every muscle group throughout the body and gave you all the actions, the exercises, all the things you needed to know about it. But in his textbook, one little paragraph, 2/3 of the way through the book, he pointed out the rectus abdominis is an S-shaped muscle that only contracts under load. And it was so obvious and so simple, you went, duh. You can do all the sit-ups you want to, and it doesn't get rid of the pooch. Okay? Because as soon as you relax, it goes into the S shape. So what he pointed out is that your oblique muscles are what flatten your belly. Now,
really?
we all
they're on
have,
your sides.
Well, they go from one rib cage all the way to the opposite pelvis.
Oh.
And they crisscross your body. And every step you take, you're actually rotating, causing one of them to contract. So one of them never lets go, in effect. So if you're exercising and you're doing your obliques, in fact, when I got back into shape and I had let myself get a little out of shape, I actually was doing only obliques, no sit-ups at all, absolutely not. And it was a machine. Oh, yeah, it was a machine that actually allowed you to kneel, positioned you properly, had a chest pad that you had connected to and grabbed the arms, and then you rotated your legs on the pad because it was a rotating component, and you could put as much resistance as you wanted on the machine. And as you rotated, you would do one side and then come back and you'd flip the seat and you'd do the opposite side. And the interesting part with the technique that I use, the one set that I was telling you about, you actually do more time of lifting and cover more of the muscle with each contraction than all of those 3 sets that everybody normally does.
Was this
and
a
it's very
specific therapy?
it's called you can look it up as super slow technique, and the way I used to print it out and give it to patients, you can actually go to, I believe it's Outdoor Magazine, or look up, Google, what's the hurry, in quotes, with a question mark, and the article, what's the hurry? It really is much slower. But it has a picture of a turtle pulling a dumbbell. All right? If you found that, you found the right article. And it's a beautifully written article, but I thought, when I thought through the physiology of everything, it really wasn't as easy to just replicate the way they explained it. And it came down to the simple fact that if you can imagine only doing 6 to 10 repetitions, and the number will be determined by the condition you're in for the weight that you choose. And you simply, let's say you're doing bench press and you're working your chest. As you push out, you're going at an extremely slow pace of about 10 seconds out. Don't even stop at the end and come all the way back at a rate of 5 seconds. So you're not going to do the heavy weights that you're thinking of, but you want to give it good resistance. And you're going back and forth. And if you can get to 6 reps, great. Way you know you're done is you'll be shaking on the last one because you've used up all the sugar. You really have. You've used up all the oxygen.
So how much weight should we start with?
I tell patients to always start at 25% of what you think you can do on a heavier, effort. You may not feel a single thing that first time.
Yeah.
But the next time, increase it 10%. Increase it another 10%. Here's the rule of thumb. If you can get 10 reps out of that particular weight that you're on, simply add 10% to the weight the next time you go to the gym. I went from 70 on each arm in this particular machine when I first started to, I believe it was 130 within just a few months on each arm. And I was astonished, and I felt so much better. And never once did I have to hurt. Never once did I get sore. And the laugh of this was, Dave and Adrian, is that, I apologize.
No problem.
Our last effort, he's got you in that little picture down there.
I know.
The technique was designed for little old women in walkers and wheelchairs. And if I recall correctly, and it says it in the article, What's the Hurry, it was done at Central Florida State University. And it was designed to never injure the joints. And it is the most brilliant. So I use it for people who are trying to get in shape, people who are trying to get stronger, and people who have been injured. And by doing it to the level that they can, they will progress easily without needing a trainer or hurting themselves and then having to take a day off. But the goal originally was just every third day, not even every day. So
I have a question for you about,
Please.
Are you familiar with Feldenkrais?
Yes, very much.
And what do you feel about that as far as stretching and loosening and relearning how to use your muscles?
I think it's a great technique. Do I think it's the most efficient technique? Not necessarily. But I have also found, because of a practitioner that I knew, if I hit a wall with a patient, they might be in need of that technique. Yes. So I wasn't against suggesting that they try it out. The two of the people that I know didn't like it, but they tried. So the goal is never to say, this is the only way. This has to be my way. The goal is to find what works for the patient in an efficient, cost-effective manner, because medicine is our most expensive method. I mean, the gym membership's a lot cheaper. If you can get it healthy and stable so that what your daily activities are do not, one, fatigue you, because we need endurance to make it through the day, but two, don't allow you to, under an extreme moment, exert yourself to the point that you injure it, and maybe you could have been a little stronger or a little better prepped for doing that moment, whatever that moment might be, and prevent the whole event from becoming something you need extra help from. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take another break, so we'll be right back. Don't go away. Dave Nasani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's my life too. Thrive and stay alive as a caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com. And we're back on the Caregiver Dave Show. Dr. Michael Glenn, Adrian Gruberg, I'm Dave Nassani. And I wanted to ask you if you get a lot of requests for make this pain go away. Do you do it with drugs? What's your philosophy on pain? There are so many out there.
Well, what I find is by the time somebody ends up in my office, because I'm not one pushing out drugs or anything, they've already tried the medications, they've tried physical therapy, and many times they don't always get the results they want. I have found more success with that technique I mentioned earlier, active release, which you can find at activerelease.com. Put in your zip code and they'll point you to a local provider. That technique has been amazing in how, for me, it helps people with shoulder injuries, wrist carpal tunnel. When I was dealing with soldiers, the shin splints, believe it or not, is a result of a muscle issue. I had one soldier who, once I cleared his low back pain, increased his 2-mile run by cut 2 minutes off his 2-mile run just by me showing him how to run more efficiently. There are all kinds of components to this equipment that we didn't get an instruction manual for, when we were, hit 13 or hit 20 or whatever, it should have been turn 18 and here's your instruction manual on how to make this thing work better.
It's like a car.
Exactly. But it's the soft tissues. Well, as I told patients forever, bones don't go anywhere without the muscles pulling on them. And nerves are just the wiring that gets pinched, just like a wire on your car. If it, somehow you slam the door and a wire gets pinched, suddenly the dashboard's not going to work right if that's connected. So there's a plethora of possibilities, but there have been patients who came into my office for a pain that needed surgery, and I was calling, calling somebody up immediately. No, you got to go see this.
So you're not against surgery?
No. My background, I am looking to prevent the need for surgery, but if it's surgery, there's nothing that can replace it. An example is that was non-surgical, though. A friend of mine was having terrible pain. He thought he was just, forgive the explanation, but thought he was just constipated. And turned out that when I asked him all the clinical questions to find out where the pain was and all of his descriptions, I said, no, get your wife, go straight to the emergency room, have them check your spleen. Turned out he actually had a genetic defect that was causing him to clot and it was actually doing damage to his spleen. We actually saved his spleen. And so I don't care what the condition is. If I don't know, I'll ask. If I am trying to prevent a problem and I know, I'll give you a good game plan. Let's try this conservative. Let's go a little more aggressive. Let's work up to the point we get you results. I don't care what they are.
Yeah. When are you going to write your book? You got a book coming out?
Well, actually, I am working on a book, and we have.
Everybody's working on a book.
Well, I've made a little pamphlet. It's a short version that's on our website, exospine.com. That's EXOSPINE.com. And just go to the page. It talks about, I believe it says handout stretching. I have handouts for stretching. I have the explanation of fibrinogen formation. So it would actually, I think, help people understand in a way that they can just become more aware of what their body's doing.
Yeah. Now explain what this exospine is. It's a device?
Well, yes.
Sounds intriguing.
I don't know
you
if
got it under your desk there?
Properly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is basically
Let me
imagine
see it.
It's a backpack type frame, and it actually was the first one, and it's patented, that actually
You're an
has
inventor.
well, in trying to prevent the problems, I said, how do I prevent these soldiers from getting all this pain? And it's the first belt that will swivel with you when you run, and that's all connected here in the base.
And what's it designed to do? Well,
it's actually to move the way. Well, and this sometimes I'm told this doesn't sound appropriate, but as men, we love the way women walk. All right, that beautiful swivel.
I do.
That beautiful swivel is an exaggeration of what shows up in men. All right, but that swivel is how the pelvis allows us to walk and function better. And it's because of that design that I designed the belt to actually swivel here at the base in such a way that there is no resistance to movement, which is why, if you think about the athletes that I was treating, when I saw the soldiers, they're athletes, and the body armor limited their ability. So by moving the weight of their body armor and all the gear they need on a mission down to the pelvis and legs so that their back is not constantly working and it can relax more, one, their endurance improved because we tested that at a what's called a Vo2 Max Stress Test. And we found that with this, we were able to double what is called the capitulation phase, where you can't go any further. You're just under the greatest stress. And the yoke that we designed is rigid to go underneath and keep that weight off the shoulders up here at the top. But it also is designed to go any direction the body will turn.
So is that touching your shoulders, that thing?
No. Doesn't need to. It can sit up there, but you want the ability to be able to raise your arm up without these being an issue. So
they'll put a backpack on over this and their gun and all that stuff?
Yep.
Body armor, backpacks, book bags, baby carriers, load lifting straps. All of those pictures are on our website.
Does the backpack rest on that thing or your
Yes.
shoulders?
No, totally on the
So you made your shoulders like artificial shoulders. That's good.
Exactly.
So you've spoken to the military. This seems like it'd be a great idea for all of our military.
Well, and that was our goal. We have been through a lot of visits to major military installations. Senator Cornyn of Texas actually included us in the defense bill in the past, and Congress did not pass that budget. So we didn't receive any of the money. Oh, well, you see what's going on, and there is quite a challenge.
No, they'd rather send it to overseas for this
Well, actually, I refused to send it to China.
Gender studies, etc.
Yeah, I refused to send it to China to be manufactured.
Good for
people
you.
Here in the U.S.
I'm boycotting China also.
Right.
There you go. And besides, if they use it against us, why, that wouldn't be a good thing. But the whole goal, even Texas, I was selected with the Tech Fort Worth Impact Your World Award. We were selected in the Texas Emerging Technology Fund to receive $1 million, and then Governor Perry spent about a year moving around the country, convincing other companies to move to Texas. And as a result, we got a phone call that said, he spent all our money, come back next year. So then the program changed. And so we are looking to get this manufactured, and we have many, many more advancements that will make it even better. We're just trying to get out there.
Is there...
Well, everybody's going to hurt their backs.
Is there a civilian application for this?
Yes. Baby carriers, book bags for students, load lifting straps for the laborer, backpacks for the camper, hiker, preppers, people of that nature.
Yeah. You need to go on Shark Tank, my friend.
Well, we actually were applying, and while I was at the battle lab having the test done on these with the soldiers, I couldn't be in two places at once, so I didn't get to go.
Well, at first you don't succeed, you try again.
I have applied. We have not gotten a second invitation. So I'm still working on trying to find that right combination of people where we can get the product manufactured, even partnering, teaming with the different manufacturers. But we want it done here in the U.S. And
just make sure you tell them those three things, that you want it done in the U.S., it'll benefit the military, and you are a vet yourself.
Absolutely.
That will increase your chances of getting on.
I tell them every chance I get.
As a marketer, I'm just curious, could a backpack manufacturer, let's say Patagonia, all right? Somebody who's really big and has a lot of money, could they
license and sell
build
it
it
to them?
all
Yes. Yes,
into the backpack?
yes, ma'am. We have tried to find ways to license it to the backpacking industry, and one of the major manufacturers currently and he had even sold his previous company to another backpacking company, backpack manufacturer, and he specifically got real excited about it when we ran into him, and yet at the same time, we're not sure what we have not done in the pitch to actually get somebody to actually bite. But so far, we're still at that moment where we're still looking for the right partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You'll find them.
Good.
Because
I will not stop, that's for certain. It is my passion.
If you
to
ever get on
the
the Shark Tank, they would be interested, Anyway, I'm going to let you decide what you want to talk about next, because I've covered a lot of things, but what didn't I cover that you'd like to share with these burned out caregivers?
One, they need to really listen to themselves, not just the pain, but what can I do to make me, one, happy, two, feel better, and how can I make this challenge that I'm facing in life more enjoyable?
It's pursuit of happiness.
Exactly.
Sounds American.
This business of stretching 10 minutes, a minute at a time, it will help.
It does.
You should patent that if no one's already done it.
Well, it's a technique that's out there. It's not mine, but it is the most efficient technique I've ever found. And
put your name on it and tweak it.
There you go. There you go. The secret to it is, though, don't expect yourself to get massive improvement in flexibility at first. In fact, I tell patients all the time, don't expect more than 1 millimeter of improvement in your range of motion per week. And you'd be amazed, 52 millimeters at the end of a year, how much better you will feel. All right. So if anybody's out there who's interested, they can go to our website, exospine.com. And I apologize, I don't have the exact page memorized, but we have a page that has all kinds of handouts. Just click on it, download. You're welcome to sign up, and we will include you on any future mailings, because we're going to do a GoFundMe account and see if we can get some additional funding to move this project forward. And generally speaking, the real key when you're giving so much love and care to others is don't forget to give that same love and care to yourself.
Yep.
We're just so busy focused on the outside, we forget to look inside. And, the kingdom of heaven is within.
Great show. You're a smart guy, entrepreneur, and you've got a lot of gifts and talents. You should be proud of yourself. So
I'm very blessed.
As a fellow entrepreneur, I recognize that, and I commend you.
Thank you so much.
Adrian, any last questions you want to ask the doctor?
Other than about my aches and pains?
You have aches and pains? You were talking about...
I've got something that I was just diagnosed with,
before.
Something called costochondritis. And I just don't know what to do for it.
Can I ask, is it right along your sternum, I'm presuming?
Right at the very bottom of my rib cage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what you may find is that your oblique muscles and the intercostal muscles may be tight if you've bumped yourself against something in the past where you were bruised. In fact, I probably didn't explain it well enough. There are 3 categories that lead to that fibrinogen formation. 1, a true trauma. 2, repetitive motion, or 3, constant tension pressure. So if there's anything that has caused trauma in the past or overuse, it could be that you actually have fibrotic changes in the tissues that's pulling on the rib cage and affecting the intercostal nerve. Just a thought. And again, there's so much out there that if we have to back up and rethink how we look at these issues so that we can address it. It's not just a drug. It's not just surgery. There are other technologies that are coming up around that are going to make a big difference for people.
And you'll invite people to contact you with their own questions, and Adrienne certainly can contact you as well, and you can give her some detailed exercises to do. She's game.
Hope I wasn't put you too much on the spot, Adrienne.
No, not at all, not at all. I hope I didn't.
Adrienne's
put you
an
on
open
the
book.
spot.
Well, you can see I have a passion. I have people walk up to me all the time who know me and, hey, doc, this is hurting, that's hurting, whatever. I know what pain is. I just am so grateful that people trust me with their concerns.
So what's your form of communication? You want them to call you? You want
on
to
our website,
email you?
We have my phone number.
Website?
We have my email. We have a way that you can actually use the website to send us an email. And I'll be happy to try to respond. Obviously, if I haven't seen you, I can't treat you per se. But if I can point you in the direction to take a look at some possibilities, I'd be glad to help.
And certainly if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or you're going to go on vacation or go to a ball game or something, it'd be good if they just stopped in to see you, right?
There you go. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great show. You were a great guest, and we appreciate you coming on. Sorry for the technical problems the first time you tried to come on, but thank you so much for all the information. I mean, I learned a lot. I know Adrienne did as well. So until we see you again, and everybody out there, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.